So probably most of you have heard the term required reading. I used to hate that term. Many times teachers or adults will say that a certain book should be required reading for high school. Well, let me tell you, we librarians read a lot of books. And I cannot say enough times or proclaim loudly enough that I truly feel that the Master Plan by Chris Wilson should be required reading. I was lucky enough to have this book checked out on my Kindle during the quarantine. This is a picture I took of the cover from my Kindle, so that's why it has these other weird things going on. All right, so the Master Plan is about a teenager, just about your age, growing up in D.C. We first meet him when he's just a little guy, and he has a heart as big as Texas. We get to know his mom, who goes by Mona Lisa. I love that. And his grandparents, but we also see that his life is not easy. He grew up in poverty and fell into some very tough times. He was no stranger to violence, often having seen stabbings and shootings on his street at night. Once he even witnessed a very brutal attack on his own mom. One fateful night, while defending himself during an altercation, he shot and killed a man. Chris Wilson was sentenced to life in prison. We accompany Chris during his first few years of prison. For me, it was personally fascinating to get a true glimpse of how things really work within the Maryland prison system. One day, several years into his life sentence, Chris met an accomplished man, a fellow inmate, who had bettered himself so much that he actually held a job there in the jail, and he was greatly admired by many of the other inmates. Well, meeting this man impacted Chris so greatly that night, back in his jail cell, he sat down and wrote what he now calls his master plan. It's a list of almost 50 personal goals that Chris wanted to start working on immediately. I was so moved by reading this list written in Chris's own handwriting that I took this picture also off of my Kindle. And I still have this picture on my camera roll on my phone to this day. Some of the goals that he wanted to work on were to learn Italian, to start a business, to stop swearing, to host a barbecue, and to go horseback riding. Some of the inmates made fun of Chris about his list because he was what was called a lifer, but that didn't stop him. He right away started to use the prison library to continue his studies. He earned his GED and then a college degree from a local community college. Wow. So he did learn Italian, and he did start a super successful business from right there within the jail, but I don't want to give too much away. If crime and justice in the United States interests you, please read this book. If you want to follow an underdog hero, cheering him on with tears in your eyes while not being able to wait to see what he does next, then please read this book. My hope is that one day I get to meet Mr. Wilson. I would love to shake his hand and sit and talk with him for a while. I told my boss that I hope I can get through this without tearing up, and I'm doing okay. This is me. I'm Miss Maria, and I work at the Mount Airy branch of Carroll County Public Library. And pictured with me is my constant companion during the quarantine, my Kindle. I hope you enjoyed my book talk on the master plan, and if you do read it, please stop in once we're open again, because I would love to hear what you think.